that's ultimately why I hired Rose, is because I really wanted to stick with this plant-based way of eating, but I also wanted to lose weight and tone up and build muscle.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new to the channel, what have you been doing on YouTube? Just kidding. If you are new to the channel, welcome, hello. I'm so glad you found me. My name is Rose. I am an online fitness coach for women. I have a 3-month program that will help you learn how to achieve your dream plant-based body, because I am plant-based for health, but I'm also super into fitness, and I've learned how to live forever, hopefully, and look good at the same time. So apply below if you're interested. We can get talking, but this video is gonna be super, super awesome if you are into fitness, if you want to improve your body composition, if you are thinking about or already counting and tracking your macros. I am going to teach you exactly how to fit your macros with vegan sources of protein and vegan foods in general. But first, I am here with an amazing client testimonial. We're gonna hear from Lindsay. She is a super, super, super cool mom from Canada. And we connected on Instagram. She had already been eating plant-based, more of that starch solution type, so lots of starches. She loved her sourdough bread, and she wanted to get back to her pre-baby body. So after she had her 2 adorable kids, she, kind of lost touch with the fitness, and then when gyms closed down as well, she just needed that kick, that momentum, so she found me. We taught her how to make seitan, and she dropped 12 pounds within the 3 months, and her body type has completely changed. We really went for that body recomposition. She put on some muscle, she shred some fat, and she looks awesome. So we're gonna hear from her first, and then stay tuned. We're gonna talk about all things vegan macros, so don't go anywhere. What's up, you guys? I am here with my awesome client, Lindsay. She is an amazing, she doesn't even look like a mom, but I promise she's a mom. She has some kids running around in the background for proof. But we're just going to talk about how she was able to transform her entire body through my program just by cleaning up her already super healthy whole food plant-based vegan diet and also lifting at home.
I just felt totally lost. Like, I knew what foods were healthy, but I had no idea how to eat in regards to losing weight or toning up my body. I decided that I needed help, which is why I contacted Rose, because I was like, I didn't know how to eat properly if I wanted to maintain this way of eating. I just knew I needed to get educated, and it seems like every book I read or podcast I listened to didn't really help me fine tune the diet, so that's ultimately why I hired Rose, is because I really wanted to stick with this plant-based way of eating, but I also wanted to lose weight and tone up and build muscle. And the world does put fear into you that if you're going to be vegan, that you're going to be malnourished and you're going to be this frail person with brittle bones. And so I didn't want to have that fear creep into me. So I just knew I needed some help. And ultimately that's why I hired Rose, is because obviously she knows what she's talking about, and she's got all the muscles to show for it. And that's what I wanted. Yes. So that's how I stumbled upon her.
What were you eating before the program, plant-based, and what do you kind of like to eat now that you've discovered is helpful for fitness?
So prior to the program, I would say that I had really convinced myself that protein didn't matter, that, you hear in the kind of vegan world, people always tell you it's a myth, all plants have protein, and that's true. And, I do believe that if you don't have any specific goals, you probably could get away with just eating lots of fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, all that, and be healthy, but not necessarily meet any specific fitness goals. So prior to, I had gone back to fully plant-based and just sort of decided that I wanted to do that for myself and my kids. And this time my husband joined me in that, which was really nice. So probably from November until March when I started working with Rose. I was just sort of eating, I want to say intuitively, but my intuition probably wasn't great. I was probably eating a lot more like fat than I should have. You know, I would have like the Buddha bowls and I would just like pile things on, and everything I could fit into one bowl I would eat. I would have like a lot of like oatmeal, and I would pile on like hemp hearts, nuts, seeds, like anything you could think of, I would just pile it on there. I wasn't worrying about what I ate because I just thought that if I ate whole foods, then I'd be good to go. But once I started tracking my, you know, she has you track your macros for a few days or a week prior to her starting. And I was like, whoa, like I was consuming a lot of calories, you know, and I didn't even realize it. And also being a mom, I'm sure the moms can relate that when you have kids and you're like, you just find yourself snacking through the day. Like if they don't finish their plates, like you just finish their plate, and in your head, you're not really eating a meal. And so you don't like really realize how those things add up through the day. So I think I became super mindful of the little bites of foods that I would have through the whole day and how those really added up for me. And after joining the program, I would say now the biggest changes to my diet are definitely the protein and the protein sources and the amount of protein that I consume. I bet you I could count on one hand how many days I did not have an ice cream through the program. And that's something that I will definitely continue.
Totally.
Excuse me. I feel like my day doesn't really begin until I've had it. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I genuinely look forward to. I have a huge sweet tooth. Like I love to bake. I have a sweet tooth. So for me, that was really important. I don't crave savory foods in the morning. I love sweeter foods. And so ice cream was really good for me. And I figured out a way to get it to like, I think it had like 56 grams of protein in it.
Yeah.
So it was a good, nice way to start my day. And yeah, I think I've just learned how to prioritize the proteins and kind of like rework my plate. And so I can, you know, manage my meals that way. And I do feel way more full through the day. I don't feel snacky. The calories that I was consuming, I think before were a little bit like, they just go through you super fast because you don't have those like, you know, heartier protein sources. So I would say that was the biggest change, was incorporating more protein, prioritizing the protein. Ice cream, obviously. You won't get through a program without it, trust me.
You're any oatmeal lover, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I am an oatmeal lover, to be honest. My kids eat oatmeal every day, but I do prefer the ice cream, definitely.
Good. Yeah, that's why my favorite clients are the ice cream clients.
Yeah, that's right? Yeah.
But it's all about just because you came to me and I remember, I think you had like 60 or something grams of protein and just like a lot of carbs, like very starch, very carb focused, which is fine. But for the fitness goals that we want, we obviously have to think about our portion sizes, and then we have to think about the protein sources. And now it's like going forward in your life, Lindsay, you don't have to track anything. You just kind of know because you have the knowledge to be able to eat intuitively.
Definitely.
Which is important. What would you say, other than discovering ice cream, was accomplishment or highlight of the program?
What was a highlight of the program? You know what? I would say for me, it was, I mean, I think through the program, I lost 10 to 12 pounds, something like that, which I would say I did find myself quite frustrated at some point that my weight wasn't dropping. But there was one week, and I don't know what week it was, probably 5, 6, something like that, where the progress picture, I was like, it all of a sudden seemed to click. Like I all of a sudden saw such a change in myself from like one week to the next. There was like that little like jumping off point where I was like, okay, the weight doesn't really matter. Like I see my body like reshaping and changing, and it doesn't, I would say it was non-scale victories for me would be the biggest win through the program, you know, because you can get super hung up on the number on the scale. And when you only see it change like 1 pound or no pounds at all, you can get really frustrated. But I would say the biggest thing for me was that one week I really saw my body change and the scale didn't. And I was like, okay, it's working. Like it's working, you know, and I don't need to worry so much about the number from week to week, and just trust the process and, you know, get these habits to be super consistent. And it's easy for me to look back and say like, oh, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. I could have done more. You know, there was times where I didn't feel like I was doing my best. But then in hindsight, I look back and I think, you know, we moved cities. A lot happened in that time. My daughter switched schools, like all this stuff. And I just know, and I've said this to Rose before, that if I wasn't working with Rose, I know how that would have gone. You know, I would have let myself not work out because I would have had an excuse that I was busy or stressed or this, that, or the other thing. And I would have eaten whatever I wanted. When you're busy, you know, you don't really like make time, prioritize time to eat healthy foods. And I just think that I look back and think, if I wasn't doing this program at that time, I don't know where I would be now, but it definitely wouldn't be where I am. So for me, that was the biggest win, was getting through that stressful period time and being consistent. And even though there was days where I slipped up or wasn't perfect, it overall was extremely successful. And it's not about being perfect, but it's about, like, and I've heard you say before, it's about the things that you do consistently in your life that, you know, are the most important things. And it's about being 1% better every day. Yes. Right. And you'll have bad days. Like, everybody has bad days. And I think I just look back and think, like, this is just life, you know, but if you adapt habits that you can keep as consistent as possible, and you really learn to, like, default to better things, right? Like, if I'm stressed now, I default to going for a walk and putting on a podcast and clearing my mind. I can't really put a price on your health, and you'll gain so much knowledge, and there's just no way that you can come out of that program not better. There's just no way. Like, Rose won't allow it. Believe me. And she's like the biggest cheerleader, like, and yeah, I have to say, like, if you're thinking about starting, just do it. You won't regret it, because you'll gain so much knowledge, you'll gain friends, and you'll be way better off for it. Definitely.
Okay, you guys, so if you are watching this video, I really hope that you saw my one before it, where I talked about finding your total daily energy expenditure, the calories that you need, how to set your goal, and then a little bit on how to set your macros. So definitely go watch that first, or if you already have the calories that you need right now for your goal and the macros, keep watching. I'm going to be talking about how to set up your full day of eating. When you transition to plant-based eating, some people come to me where they are replacing the animal protein with insufficient plant protein. For example, if you were to just take out the slab of chicken on your plate and replace it with quinoa, that is great, but you are not matching the protein amount. You would need to put a lot more quinoa on your plate to match the protein, and by that time you are probably going over your calories, and if you are not bulking, going over your calories is not going to get you that weight, that fat loss response that you want. So you have to make sure that you are putting optimal sources of plant protein on your plate to have that like for like switch. So step one in fitting your vegan macros is having an understanding of the different types of plant-based vegan protein sources out there. So in my definition, we have optimal sources of plant protein and what I like to call secondary or booster sources. So the optimal sources of plant protein are obviously in terms of their digestibility, so how well that protein is absorbed by our body, and also the calorie density. So we don't want a vegan protein source that we're going to have to eat tons and tons and tons of to get the same amount of protein out of it. So the optimal sources in my book are protein powder, vital wheat gluten to make seitan, tofu and tempeh, texturized vegetable protein, and any kind of mock meat. However, I do tend to stay away from those. They are really not a part of my diet at all. And then you can do a cup of beans or legumes. And then your secondary or booster sources are things that you can add in on your plate, that will bolster the protein amount, but are not necessarily the main hunk of the protein. Okay, so you understand the optimal sources and the booster sources. Now let's take a look at how you can build your meals. So let's say you're targeting 90 grams of protein for your entire day. So you can break them up into 3 meals of 30 grams of protein each. So I always teach my clients to think of the protein source first. So build your meals around the protein source. Now you have to recognize that the sources of plant-based vegan protein can come packaged with other macros as well. So like I said before, if you want to replace that chicken off your plate, you would have to replace it with something of a vegan or plant-based protein source that has similar macros. It probably will be seitan. Seitan is really high in protein and almost negligible fat and carb. Or you have to then build the rest of your plate around the vegan protein source that you want after you recognize that it's coming packaged with different macro components as well. So one example of fitting your macros would be utilizing protein, carb, and fat source that are just purely protein, carb, fat. So that would be building a meal with protein powder, with a fruit, and with oil, which each of those components are just that one thing. But that's not very realistic. Something more realistic would be trying to get 30 grams of protein and you want tofu as your optimal protein source. You would have to recognize that tofu has fat in it and a little bit of carb. So that is tapping into the calories that you can put on your plate from the fat and carbs that you want. So maybe if you want to do a big tofu scramble with avocado toast, you would have to be mindful that your tofu is also going to tap into some of the calories that you can allot from fat. It's super, 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 super simple once you just have those designs in mind.